At first glance, cheap American towns feel like a dream come true. Homes cost less than a new car. Rent is hundreds of dollars cheaper than major cities. Streets are quiet, traffic is light, and life feels slower. For many people struggling with rising housing costs, inflation, and financial pressure, these towns look like an escape. But what if the low prices are not a gift? What if they are a warning? Across the United States, thousands of towns are incredibly affordable. Yet behind the low prices is a reality most people only discover after moving. Cheap towns often come with hidden costs that do not show up on real estate listings or cost of living charts. These costs are not always financial. Many are emotional, social, and long-term. This is the truth about cheap American towns. Yes, you can save money, but there is always a price to pay. The first impression: why cheap towns look so attractive when people search for affordable places to live. Cheap towns immediately stand out. Online listings show large houses for prices that seem impossible in big cities. Rent is low. Property taxes appear manageable. Utilities seem affordable. For retirees, these towns promise survival on fixed income. For young families, they promised home ownership. For remote workers, they promise space and peace. The first impression is powerful. It creates hope. People imagine a simpler life where money stress disappears. They imagine children playing outside, friendly neighbors, and a strong sense of community. But first impressions rarely tell the full story. Why houses are cheap in the first place? Houses do not become cheap without a reason. In real estate, price reflects demand. When prices are extremely low, it usually means fewer people want to live there. In many cheap towns, jobs disappeared decades ago. Factories closed. Mines shut down. Railways lost importance. Farming became automated.
Woo!
Industries that once supported entire communities vanished. As jobs left, people followed. Population declined slowly at first, then faster. Schools lost students. Businesses lost customers. Property values dropped. Homes became cheap, not because they are great deals, but because fewer people want them. Low prices are often the result of long-term decline. Employment. The biggest hidden cost. One of the biggest prices you pay in a cheap town is limited employment. In many affordable towns, job options are extremely narrow. There may be one major employer, such as a hospital, a factory, or a distribution center. If that employer struggles or closes, the entire town suffers. Wages are often low. Career growth is limited. Professional jobs are rare. Even basic service jobs may not offer stable hours or benefits. For young adults, this creates a dead end. For families, it creates financial insecurity. For newcomers, it often means underemployment. People move thinking they will figure it out later. Later becomes years. And by then, leaving feels harder. Remote work is not the solution. People think it is. Many people believe remote work solves everything. Work from anywhere. Live cheap. Save money. But cheap towns often lack reliable infrastructure. Internet can be slow, unstable, or expensive. Mobile service may be unreliable. Power outages may be frequent. Even if the internet works, remote workers often feel isolated. Co-working spaces rarely exist. Networking opportunities are limited. Professional growth slows. Remote work can help some people, but it does not fix the underlying economic weakness of many cheap towns. Healthcare. Cheap living. Expensive risk healthcare is one of the most overlooked costs of cheap towns. Many affordable towns have limited medical facilities. Small clinics replace full hospitals. Specialists are far away. Emergency care requires long drives. For healthy young people, this may not feel important. But health changes quickly. Accidents happen. Chronic conditions develop. In cheap towns, a medical emergency can become a life-altering event simply because help is too far away. Retirees often move for affordability, only to realize healthcare access is poor. Families with children face the same risk. Cheap housing does not matter when healthcare becomes expensive or inaccessible. Education. The price paid by children families often discover the real costs of cheap towns through schools. Low population means low funding. Schools struggle to offer advanced programs. Class sizes may be small, but resources are limited. Extracurricular activities disappear. Arts programs are cut. Sports teams shrink. Advanced placement classes are rare. Teachers work hard, but they are stretched thin. Students who want more opportunities often feel trapped. Parents face painful choices. Stay for affordability or move for their children's future. Many families leave quietly when they realize cheap living may cost their children opportunities. Social isolation. The silent cost cheap towns are quiet. For some, that feels peaceful. For others, it becomes isolating. Social circles are small. Newcomers struggle to fit in. Everyone knows everyone, but that does not always mean belonging. Diversity may be limited. Cultural opportunities may be few. Entertainment options are scarce. For young adults, isolation accelerates the desire to leave. For older residents, loneliness becomes a serious issue. Mental health support is often limited or non-existent. Counseling services may require long travel. Support groups may not exist. Isolation does not show up in budgets, but it affects quality of life deeply. Transportation, cheap housing, expensive mobility in cheap towns. You drive everywhere. There is little or no public transportation. Stores, doctors, schools, and jobs may be miles away. Gas, car, maintenance, insurance, and repairs become unavoidable costs. If your car breaks down, life stops. In cities, transportation is optional. In cheap towns, it is mandatory. Over time, transportation costs quietly eat into the savings that cheap housing promised. Empty streets and closing businesses. One of the most unsettling realities of cheap towns is emptiness. Main streets, once filled with stores, now have empty windows. Restaurants close quietly. Local shops disappear. Each closure reduces convenience and social life. Residents must travel farther for basic needs. Empty buildings affect morale. They signal decline. They make towns feel forgotten. This slow erosion changes how people feel about where they live. Property traps. Cheap to buy, hard to sell. Buying cheap is easy. Selling is not. In declining towns, demand is low. Houses sit on the market for years. Prices stagnate or fall further. People become stuck. They want to leave, but cannot sell without major losses. Cheap homes can turn into financial traps, locking people into towns they no longer want to live in. Aging populations and shrinking communities. Many cheap towns are aging rapidly. Young people leave. Seniors remain. Schools shrink. Healthcare demand increases. Community energy declines. Without young families, towns struggle to sustain services. The cycle continues. An aging population is not bad by itself, but without balance, it creates long-term instability. Why people still move anyway, despite everything? People still move to cheap towns. Some have no choice. Some are escaping debt. Some want peace at any cost. Some believe they will beat the odds. And sometimes, cheap towns work for certain people, but only if they understand the full price. Cheap American towns offer affordability, but affordability is only the surface. Beneath it are costs that shape lives, futures, and mental well-being. Now we will uncover why people leave after moving, real stories of regret and adaptation towns trying to reinvent themselves. Who cheap towns actually work for, and the final truth, are cheap American towns worth it? We explored why cheap American towns look so attractive and what hides behind low prices, weak job markets, limited healthcare, struggling schools, isolation, transportation costs, and declining communities. Now, in part 2, we go deeper into what happens after people move, why many quietly leave, and who cheap towns truly work for. The honeymoon phase. Almost everyone who moves to a cheap town experiences a honeymoon phase. The house feels enormous for the price. Bills feel manageable. Life feels calm. There is relief from financial pressure, at least temporarily. People tell friends they made the smartest decision of their lives. But this phase does not last forever. After 6 months to a year, reality begins to surface. The excitement fades. The quiet becomes silence. The savings slow down as hidden costs appear. What once felt peaceful starts to feel limiting. This is when the true price begins to reveal itself. When convenience disappears in cities, convenience is invisible because it is everywhere. In cheap towns, convenience is one of the first things people lose. There may be only one grocery store. If it closes early, you wait. If prices are high, you pay. If selection is limited, you adjust. Restaurants are few. Shopping requires long drives. Entertainment options are scarce. Simple errands become planned events. Over time, the lack of convenience wears people down. It is not dramatic. It is exhausting. Social reality. Outsider status. Many cheap towns have deep roots. Families have lived there for generations. Social circles are established and closed. Newcomers often remain outsiders for years. People are polite, but distance remains. Friendships are slow to form. Community involvement is expected, but not always welcoming. For people moving from diverse or dynamic environments, this can feel emotionally draining. Loneliness becomes one of the highest prices people pay. The emotional cost of stagnation. In cheap towns, life often moves slowly. That can be comforting, but it can also feel like stagnation. Career growth slows. Social life repeats. Days blur together. Ambitious people feel restless. Creative people feel stuck. Young adults feel invisible. Over time, people begin to feel like life is passing them by. That emotional cost is rarely discussed, but it is one of the most common reasons people leave. Regret does not arrive loudly. People do not wake up one day full of regret. Regret arrives quietly. It arrives when a hospital is too far away. It arrives when a child has fewer opportunities. It arrives when friends move away. It arrives when a job opportunity requires relocation, but selling the house feels impossible. By the time regret becomes clear, people are often financially or emotionally tied to the town. Why leaving becomes harder than expected. Cheap towns are easy to enter and difficult to exit. Homes take time to sell. Jobs are local. Savings may not be enough to restart elsewhere. Children are enrolled in schools. Aging parents rely on proximity. People stay longer than they planned. Some stay forever. Not because they want to, but because leaving feels too risky. This is one of the most painful truths of cheap living. Towns trying to reinvent themselves. Not all cheap towns are dying. Some are fighting back. They invest in broadband. They offer incentives to remote workers. They promote tourism and small businesses. They rebuild downtown areas. These towns understand that survival requires adaptation. When it works, population energy returns. Communities rebuild. But success is slow and uncertain. Cheap towns actually work for cheap American towns are not bad. They are misunderstood. They work best for people who have stable remote income value, quiet over convenience, do not need rapid career growth, are comfortable with limited services, have strong internal motivation. They work less well for young professionals seeking advancement, families prioritizing education options, people with medical needs, those who crave social variety. The problem is not the towns. The problem is unrealistic expectations. The myth of getting ahead. Many people move believing cheap towns will help them get ahead financially. But saving money does not always mean building wealth. Low wages, limited investment opportunities, and declining property values can stall long-term progress. Some people survive. Few truly advance. What cheap really means. Cheap does not mean free. Cheap does not mean easy. Cheap does not mean safe. Cheap means trade-offs. Every low price reflects something missing. Opportunity, access, growth, or connection. The future of cheap towns will continue to exist. Some will shrink further. Some will stabilize. A few will transform. Technology, remote work, and migration trends will decide their fate, but the price will always remain. It will simply change form. The final truth. Cheap American towns come with a price not listed on any website. It is paid in time, opportunity, connection, convenience, and sometimes regret. For some people, the price is worth it. For others, it is too high. The key is knowing the cost before you pay it. If you are considering moving to a cheap American town, do not just look at prices. Look at life. Look at opportunity. Look at your future. If this video helped you see the full picture, like this video and subscribe for more deep, honest insights about living, moving, and surviving in modern America. Comment below. Would you move to a cheap town, or does the price feel too high? Your answer might help someone else avoid a costly mistake.